I was 25, married to a millionaire, and living in a house so big it echoed when I cried. People think money protects you. It doesn't. It just makes the betrayal quieter. That night, I came home early, not angry, not suspicious, just tired. The ocean lights were still on. My husband's custom Ferrari sat in the driveway, and my best friend's heels were by the door. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I walked upstairs, past the marble walls he paid for, past the life everyone. Online thought I was winning at the bedroom door wasn't locked, and in that bed was the man who promised me forever, with the woman who promised she'd never hurt me. But here's the part no one expects. I didn't confront them. I didn't leave. I didn't cry. I stayed. I smiled, and I waited because what they didn't know was this. By the time my husband realized, I knew his money, his reputation, and the woman in that bed with him were already gone. Asterisk welcome to stories her heart holds, where secrets, betrayal, and shocking truths come alive. Stay with me, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew. Asterisk stories her heart holds. I never thought I'd walk into my own bedroom and see this. I opened the door slowly, almost afraid to look. And there they were, my best friend, her smile frozen in shock, and my husband. In my bed, I froze. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. My legs felt weak, like the floor beneath me had disappeared. It wasn't some small thing. He's a millionaire. Our entire life, looked perfect on the outside. The penthouse on the 50th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city lights like a river of gold. My designer closet with gowns I'd never even worn, rows of shoes that cost more than some people's cars. A crystal chandelier above our bed, sparkling like nothing could ever go wrong. But it was all a lie. The silence in that room was deafening. My best friend's eyes pleaded. My husband's face went pale. I wanted to scream, cry, smash every object in the room, but I couldn't. I just stood there, watching, frozen in shock. Why? The word barely left my lips. It sounded small, weak. Too small for what I felt inside: anger, heartbreak, betrayal, disbelief. But they didn't answer. They didn't need to. Their guilty silence spoke louder than any words ever could. I took a step back, my heels clicking on the marble floor, the sound echoing through the penthouse. The city skyline behind them glimmered, millions of lights reflecting off the glass walls. And in that glow, I saw it, my life, sparkling on the outside, crumbling inside. I remembered the last text I'd ignored from him while I was at the spa. I thought it was just work, a meeting he was running late for. Maybe it was nothing, but now I realized it might have been the first warning. Everything flashed before me. Our engagement party, the luxury cars lined up in our driveway, his black Bentley, my white Porsche, the vacations to private islands, the champagne in crystal flutes, the expensive gifts, the designer jewelry, the watches. All of it meant nothing if the people I trusted could betray me like this. I turned toward the door, needing air, needing space, needing answers. But as I stepped back, my phone buzzed in my hand. A message from an unknown number. Just 4 words. Look closer tonight. My blood ran cold. Who's this? How did they know? And what did they mean by tonight? My husband didn't know I had seen it. My best friend didn't know, but I knew. And suddenly I realized this was far bigger than just a one-night betrayal. I looked back at them. My husband's expensive watch caught the light. Diamonds in my best friend's bracelet shimmered, symbols of wealth, status, and deceit. The things we flaunted, the things we took pride in, were now symbols of my worst nightmare. I should have left. I should have run out the door, called someone, done anything. but something inside me, the same part of me that had fought to get. Everything I had in life, the part that refused to be weak, made me stay. I needed to see. I needed to remember. I needed to understand. My husband finally spoke, voice trembling. It's not what it looks like. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed in the room. Not what it looks like. I repeated, "Are you kidding me? You're in bed with my best friend in her bedroom, and that's not what it looks like." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. Save it. I snapped. I wanted to throw the nearest lamp at them, punch him, scream until my voice was gone. Instead, I did the only thing I could. I watched. I observed. I memorized every detail. The way she tried to cover herself with the sheets. The way he sat. They're frozen, the expensive silk sheets twisted and crumpled around them. I walked slowly around the bed, my heels making soft clicks on the hardwood. My eyes caught the glint of my husband's Rolex on the nightstand. I picked it up. I remembered the first time he gave it to me, a gift for our anniversary. I felt bile rise in my throat. Why? I asked again, quieter this time. But the question wasn't just about tonight. It was about everything. About the trips he said he was taking for work, the late nights at the office, the secret calls he claimed were for business. I had trusted him, loved him, believed in him, and now he had betrayed me. I went to the window, looking down at the city below. The lights were beautiful, but they mocked me. I could see the reflection of my shattered life in the glass. I remembered the first night we moved into this penthouse, the champagne, the laughter, the dreams of a perfect life. Dreams that now felt like someone else's, stolen and twisted into something cruel. The message on my phone buzzed again. Don't trust him. Watch carefully. I didn't know who was sending these messages, but I knew one thing. Someone knew. Someone was watching. And if they knew, maybe there was more I didn't know. Maybe the betrayal ran deeper than this one night. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. I wanted to scream, cry, leave, destroy, but I also wanted revenge, not the petty kind, the kind that unravels secrets, the kind that exposes lies, the kind that makes people pay for what they've done. I looked at my husband. He didn't move. His face pale, sweat on his brow, like he finally realized this wasn't just a mistake, this was the end. I looked at my best friend. Her diamond bracelet caught the light again, a cruel little reminder of luxury and lies. She reached out like she wanted to explain, apologize, beg. I didn't care. I only cared about one thing, the truth. Every hidden conversation, every secret, meeting, every late night text. I wanted it all. I stood up, feeling a fire inside me. This wasn't just about a bed. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about power, wealth, and secrets. And I was done being blind. I left the room, slamming the door behind me, the sound echoing through the penthouse. My hands shook as I picked up the phone again. Look closer tonight. The words repeated in my head. What did they mean? What was I missing? And then I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A small envelope slipped under the bedroom door. My name written in perfect cursive. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single note. They've been lying. Start at the beginning. You'll see everything. I dropped to the floor, gripping the note, my mind racing. Everything I thought I knew, my marriage, my friendships, my life of luxury was a lie. And in that moment, I realized this was only the beginning. The betrayal, the secrets, the lies, they were all connected. And if I wanted answers, I had to follow the trail. Every whisper, every luxury dinner, every expensive gift could hide a lie. Every golden detail could hide a truth darker than I could imagine. I took a deep breath. My eyes fell on my best friend's bracelet again. Diamonds, sparkling, precious, like trust. And now, broken, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't just going to sit back. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to forgive. I was going to find the truth. And when I did, everyone would pay dot because in a life built on money, power, and appearances, betrayal is the most dangerous luxury of all. Stories her heart holds. I sat on the edge of my bed for what felt like hours, gripping that small envelope, reading the note over and over. They've been lying. Start at the beginning. You'll see everything. The city lights outside the penthouse shimmered like a sea of gold, each one reflecting the life I thought I had, a life of luxury, of trust, of love. But now each reflection mocked me. Every expensive car, every diamond, every silk gown suddenly felt like part of a lie I'd been living in. I didn't know where to start. Who had sent the note? How did they know? And what did they mean by start at the beginning? But deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it. Not now. Not after what I'd seen. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through our messages, his texts. Hers, mine. Everything looked normal at first glance. But then I noticed a pattern. Times when he said he was working late, she appeared in my social media stories. Times when I was away, their messages seemed harmless, but the timing, the subtle hints, the little jokes, they were all pieces of a puzzle I hadn't noticed. Luxury had blinded me. My life had been a showcase of wealth, expensive dinners, designer bags, private jets. But in that world, appearances were everything, and the truth was always hidden behind sparkling facades. I remember the night we celebrated our last big deal, the gala in Manhattan. He wore a tailored black tuxedo, a Cartier watch glinting under the chandelier lights. I wore a silver gown that hugged my figure perfectly, my hair cascading in soft waves. Everyone envied us. Everyone wanted our life. But as I watched him laugh that night with my best friend leaning close, whispering something in his ear, I had no idea what they were plotting behind the smiles. Now I had to find out. I started with her apartment. My best friend's place was just a few blocks away. I told myself it was research, not revenge, but the thought of what I might find made my stomach twist. Her apartment mirrored my own obsession with luxury. Polished marble, floors, gold-trimmed furniture, a closet of designer shoes that made my own collection look modest. But something felt off. The apartment was too neat, too staged, like someone wanted to hide something that I searched. I looked for receipts, notes, anything that could give me a clue. And I found it a hidden envelope under the living room rug. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were photos. Not just any photos of him, of her, and other people I didn't recognize. Meetings late at night, secret dinners, exchanges of envelopes. My heart raced. This wasn't just a fling. This was calculated. I felt anger boiling inside me. I wanted to scream, throw the photos across the room, burn everything. But I didn't. I took pictures with my phone, memorized every detail. If I was going to uncover the truth, I had to be careful. I had to be smart. Back in my penthouse, I laid everything out on the marble countertop in the kitchen. The photos, the messages, the note, each one a thread I had to follow. And then my phone buzzed again. They think you don't see. But you do. My hands froze. Who is this? A stranger? An ally? Someone who knew what I was up against? I didn't know. But one thing was clear. I wasn't alone. And that was enough. To keep me going, I decided to start at the beginning, the gala, the nights he claimed to be working late, the vacations he said were business trips. Each memory was tinged now with suspicion. I replayed it all in my mind, noticing things I had missed. A whispered conversation I had walked in on, a smile that didn't reach his eyes, her hand lingering too long on his arm. The next day, I confronted him carefully, calmly. I couldn't let him know I had evidence yet. I had to probe, test, make him reveal something without realizing I already knew. We sat in the penthouse lounge, the skyline behind him like a silent witness. I can't stop thinking about last night, I said, my voice steady. I need honesty, everything, no lies. He looked at me, his expression carefully neutral. You're overreacting, he said. It's nothing, just a mistake. I didn't flinch. I kept my eyes on him. A mistake? In our bedroom? With my best friend? He hesitated. That tiny pause was a crack. A crack I could see through. It wasn't supposed to happen, he murmured. It just did. I nodded slowly, hiding the storm inside me. Do you think I don't know? The messages, the late nights, the vacations? He swallowed. His expensive cufflinks caught the light. Symbols of status, symbols of lies. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of being caught. He was afraid of being exposed. And I could see the plan unraveling in his eyes. That night, I went to sleep in my penthouse alone, the city lights glittering below. But sleep didn't come. I kept thinking about the photos, the messages, the notes. Someone was watching. Someone wanted me to see the truth. And maybe, just maybe, I was being guided towards something bigger than just their betrayal. The next morning, I found another envelope slipped under my door. No sender, no explanation. Just one line. The Bentley hides what you need. My heart raced. Our black Bentley, the one he said he drove to meetings, the one everyone admired. I ran to the garage, my heels clacking against the marble floors. The car gleamed under the morning sun, pristine and perfect. I opened the glove compartment and found a small key, along with a note. It's in the trunk. Hurry. My hands shook as I opened the trunk. Inside was a leather-bound folder. I pulled it out, flipping through pages filled with bank statements, receipts, and names I didn't recognize. Luxury hotels, private islands, secret accounts, evidence of a life I didn't know existed. And in the corner of one page, a name stood out, hers. My best friend's. Every breath I took felt heavier. Every second, the stakes grew higher. This wasn't just infidelity. This was a conspiracy. A life built on lies, and now I had proof. I realized something else. Someone was leading me here. Someone knew I would find it, and maybe someone wanted me to. I sat in the driver's seat, the folder on my lap, and stared out at the city. The skyline looked beautiful, but it was a city of secrets. And I was just starting to uncover mine, and then my phone buzzed again. They never expected you to fight back. Watch carefully tonight. I didn't know what awaited me. I didn't know who was behind these messages. I didn't know how deep the betrayal went. But one thing was certain, my life of luxury, my perfect marriage, my so-called friends, all of it was crumbling. And I was ready to watch it burn because the more I uncovered, the more dangerous it became. And in a world of wealth, power, and secrets, danger is the most seductive luxury of all. Astra's stories her heart holds. I spent the entire day replaying every memory, every laugh, every late-night conversation, trying to pinpoint when everything went wrong. But the more I thought, the more I realized this wasn't just one night. This had been going on for months, maybe even years. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was guiding me. The messages, the hidden notes, the key and the Bentley, all of it felt orchestrated. Someone wanted me to see the truth, and I had no choice but to follow the trail. That evening, I decided to go through the folder from the Bentley again. The papers were meticulous. Receipts from private hotels, invoices from luxury restaurants in cities I'd never been, and payments from accounts I didn't know existed. And then I saw a series of dates and addresses. Some were familiar, some were foreign, but all pointed to the same pattern. Secret meetings between him and her. I couldn't believe it. The woman I had called my best friend, the person I trusted above all, had been plotting behind my back, not just with my husband, but possibly with others. And then it hit me, the depth of their greed. Luxury had been their playground. Expensive dinners and hidden suites, champagne flowing in crystal flutes, private jets to escape anyone who might ask questions. Every indulgence, every lavish gift had been a part of the deception. And I'd been blind to it all dot. I decided I had to follow them. I couldn't just sit and wait. I rented a black SUV, sleek, powerful, almost intimidating, and parked a block away from the address on the first. Note: the city lights reflected off the glossy hood, blending with the dark night. My heart pounded in my chest. I was scared, but fear had a strange way of sharpening my focus. Hours passed, and then I saw them, my husband, his jacket perfectly tailored, his watch gleaming in the dim light, and her, laughing like nothing mattered, stepping out of a black limousine. They looked flawless, untouchable, unaware that someone was watching. I followed them to a luxury hotel downtown, one of those buildings where the valet wears white gloves and the lobby smells of fresh orchids and expensive leather. The kind of place people go to hide in plain sight. Through the glass doors, I watched them meet a man I didn't recognize. He wore a dark suit, expensive cufflinks, and a face that looked familiar, like he belonged to another world, one of power, influence, and secrets. They exchanged envelopes, shook hands, whispered in low tones. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the exchange. Money, information. I didn't know, but I did know one thing. They were playing a game I wasn't meant to see. I snapped a few pictures from my phone, careful not to draw attention. Every click felt like a heartbeat, loud and dangerous in the quiet night. My stomach churned, but I didn't stop. I had to know. I needed proof. Back in the SUV, I pored over the photos, connecting faces, places, and dates. It was all a puzzle, and the picture that emerged wasn't just betrayal, it was conspiracy. I realized that my luxurious life had been nothing but a stage, and I had been the unsuspecting audience. The next morning, I went back to the penthouse. I couldn't stop thinking about the messages and the envelopes. Someone was leading me, but why? Were they helping me? Testing me? Or was this part of an even bigger plan? I needed allies. Someone I could trust. But trust had become a currency I couldn't afford. My husband and my best friend had spent months eroding it. Everyone else? Potential threats or pawns. I decided to go back to the Bentley. There had to be more. Maybe they left something I missed. And sure enough, tucked behind the driver's seat, I found another envelope. This one was thicker, heavier. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen lit up with a video. My husband, my best friend, and the man from last night were in a private office, documents spread across a mahogany desk. Contracts, financial statements, something that smelled like corruption. They laughed, made jokes I couldn't understand. But the camera angle made it clear. They thought no one would ever see this. I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. I was holding their secrets, their lies, their lives in my hands. And the more I watched, the more I realized this wasn't just about money. There were connections, hidden deals, betrayals that reached far beyond our penthouse walls. That night, I barely slept. The city's lights mocked me again, glittering like diamonds I no longer wanted. The penthouse felt suffocating. I felt like an intruder in my own life, but I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. The messages came again. Tonight, it all comes. Together, watch the lobby. I didn't understand what it meant, but I knew I had to obey. The sense of urgency, the threat, the promise of truth, it was addictive. I put on a sleek black dress, simple yet elegant, enough to blend into the world I was watching. I grabbed my phone, the folder, and the USB drive and headed to the hotel lobby where they were supposed to meet. I waited, blending into the crowd. People in suits, women in gowns, servers carrying trays of champagne. I watched them all with suspicion. Every detail mattered. Every movement could be a clue. And then I saw him, my husband, stepping into the lobby, confident, untouchable, and her right beside him, holding a purse that matched her designer heels perfectly. They didn't notice me. They never did. And as I watched, I realized that tonight everything could change. Every secret, every lie, every betrayal could come to light. And I had the power to expose it all. I kept my distance, but I followed them up the elevator, floor after floor, until they disappeared into a suite on the 37th floor. My heart raced. I didn't know what I'd find. I didn't know if I'd regret seeing it, but I had to know. I waited outside, the hallway quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. The luxury carpet muffled my footsteps. My hands shook as I pressed my ear to the door, trying to catch every word, every sound, every secret, and then I heard it, my husband's voice, calm, deliberate. Make sure she never finds out. This is bigger than her, bigger than us. My blood ran cold. Bigger than me? What did that mean? Who were they working with? How far did this go? And most importantly, what was my role in all of this? I had crossed a line. There was no turning back now. I had seen too much, known too much. And somewhere deep inside, I knew that luxury, power, and betrayal weren't just things, they were weapons. And I was about to learn just how dangerous they could be. Asterisk stories her heart holds. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, their smiles, their lies, the way they moved as if the world was theirs to manipulate. The man in the hotel, the secret meetings, the envelopes, everything was connected. And now I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about betrayal or infidelity. It was about control, power, and secrets that could ruin lives. I woke before dawn, the city skyline glowing faintly through the penthouse windows. My hands shook as I brewed coffee, the smell grounding me for the chaos ahead. The USB drive sat on the counter, glowing like a warning. I had to follow the trail. Whoever was sending me these messages, they wanted me to dig deeper. And I had no choice but to obey Dot. I started with the addresses from the folder. Luxury hotels, private clubs, high-rise offices, and a series of mansions I didn't recognize. Every location pointed to meetings, exchanges, and transactions that had been hidden from me. Every envelope, every handshake, every whispered word was a piece of a puzzle that painted my husband and my best friend in a completely different light. One of power, yes, but corrupt, cold, and calculating. I rented a black Tesla this time, sleek and quiet, perfect for blending into the city at night. The thrill of danger made my pulse race. I wasn't just following them, I was entering their world, a world of wealth, influence, and betrayal that I hadn't realized I was part of. The first stop was a penthouse downtown, the kind where the valet is invisible, the staff anonymous, and every detail screams luxury. I parked 2 blocks away and watched. Hours passed. I saw him arrive in a silver Mercedes, her in a designer coat, the kind people pay tens of thousands for. They met a group of men and women I didn't recognize. Everything seemed innocent to the untrained eye, but I knew better. I took pictures, videos, notes. Every smile, every laugh, every envelope exchanged was another thread in the web. And as I watched, I realized something else. They were being careful, but not careful enough. They thought wealth made them untouchable, but I had something they didn't: curiosity, anger, and evidence. Later that night, I returned to my penthouse. My hands were trembling, my mind racing. I spread everything across the marble kitchen island: photos, receipts, notes, messages, and the USB drive. I started to connect the dots. Names appeared repeatedly, accounts transferred money, properties changed hands. Everything pointed to a network, a hidden circle of wealth, secrets, the manipulation. And I realized the horrifying truth. My husband and my best friend weren't just betraying me personally, they were part of a system that used luxury as a mask. Every high end car, every penthouse, every designer gown was a tool to hide crimes, lies, and greed. I had to find out how deep it went. And I had to be careful. One wrong move, and I could be exposed, or worse. Silence stopped. The messages came again. The club tonight, midnight. Follow the man in the gray suit. I had no idea who this man was, but I knew one thing. They wouldn't send me this if it wasn't important. I needed answers, and this might be the key. I arrived at a members-only club, the kind with a blacked-out facade, velvet ropes, and discreet security. Inside, the scent of leather, expensive perfume, and champagne filled the air. Every detail screamed wealth, secrecy, and danger. I kept my distance, blending into the crowd of sharply dressed people. And then I saw him, the man in the gray suit. Calm, confident, carrying a briefcase. He met with my husband and my best friend. They whispered, exchanged papers, laughed. I watched as my world, the life I had trusted, the people I loved, was revealed as nothing but a carefully orchestrated illusion. I snapped photos, careful not to be noticed. Every envelope, every handshake, every look was a testament to the lies they had built around me. And as I watched, a horrifying thought struck me. What if this network went even higher? What if my husband's betrayal was just a small part of something much larger? I left the club, my mind spinning. I had to be smart. I couldn't confront them yet. I couldn't alert anyone. I had to follow the clues, uncover the truth, and find a way to expose them without putting myself in danger. Back in my penthouse, I reviewed everything. I noticed patterns in the transactions, repeated dates, recurring names, hidden addresses. I realized this wasn't random. This was calculated, precise and meticulously planned. And then I saw it, a name I recognized from our social circle. Someone I had trusted, someone I never suspected. My heart raced. The web of betrayal wasn't just limited to my husband and my best friend. It extended into the world I thought I knew. And the luxury, the wealth, the beauty of it all was just a mask for greed and manipulation. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed an ally. Someone who could help me navigate this dangerous world without being part of it. But trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Everyone I knew could be involved. The next morning, I found another envelope under my door. Inside, a single line, written in the same precise hand as before: the office tomorrow. Find the safe. Safe. The word sent a chill down my spine. What was hidden there? Documents? Money? Proof? And who would leave this clue for me, guiding me deeper into the heart of the betrayal? I realized then that I had crossed a point of no return. The web of lies, wealth, and luxury wasn't just a backdrop. It was a trap, and I had stepped right into it, but I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to turn back. Every betrayal, every secret, every luxury mask now had a name, and I was going to uncover all of them, because in a world built on money, power, and appearances, the truth is the most dangerous luxury of all. Stories her heart holds. I couldn't sleep all night. Every sound in the penthouse felt amplified. The hum of the city, the distant sirens, even the soft ticking of my designer clock on the marble wall. My mind was racing. A safe. Hidden in the office. What could be inside? And why was someone guiding me to it? The city skyline sparkled outside, millions of lights reflecting off the glass walls. Each light reminded me of my life, the penthouse, the luxury, the wealth, and how carefully it had been used to mask the truth. Every chandelier, every crystal vase, every silk curtain now felt like a lie. I got dressed in black, simple but elegant, perfect for blending in if anyone was watching. My hands shook as I walked to the office, the folder from the Bentley and the USB drive clutched tightly in my hand. Every step I took felt like stepping into a trap. The office was quiet. Expensive leather chairs, a mahogany desk, and floor to ceiling. Bookshelves filled with volumes I had never touched. And there it was, the safe. Large, black, and intimidating. With a digital lock blinking softly in the dim light, I pulled out the small key from the last envelope. My fingers trembled as I inserted it, turned it, and heard the soft click that sent my pulse skyrocketing. Slowly, I opened the door. Inside was a treasure trove of secrets, documents, contracts, receipts, even photographs. My stomach churned as I realized this went far beyond infidelity. This was organized, precise, and potentially criminal. Luxury had been their camouflage for months, maybe years. And I was holding proof. I sifted through the documents, heart pounding. Offshore accounts, private investments, hidden properties, secret hotel bookings, all signed by him and many approved by her. And then I found a series of emails that made my blood run cold. Plans, coded messages, instructions. This wasn't just betrayal. This was manipulation, greed, and deception on a level I hadn't imagined. One document stood out, a contract with a name I recognized from our social circle, someone I had trusted implicitly. My hands shook as I realized this network was much larger than I thought. Wealth, influence, power, it all intertwined, and I had been oblivious. Living in a glittering cage of lies, I heard a soft click behind me. My heart leapt. I spun around empty office. The city lights reflected off the polished floors. I wasn't alone. Or maybe I was, but every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound made my pulse quicken, then my phone buzzed. Another message. They'll try to stop you. Tonight, don't be afraid. I swallowed hard. The words made no sense, but one thing was clear. Danger was coming. And I had to be ready. I went through the documents again, taking pictures and notes. Each page, each line, each signature was another thread in the web. And I realized the scale of their deception. Every expensive dinner, every private jet, every designer dress, they were all part of a story carefully written to hide the truth. And now I held the pen. Later, I sat in the penthouse lounge, looking at the skyline, the folder and USB drive spread out before me. I had the proof, yes, but I had no idea who I could trust. Every friend, every acquaintance, even some family, they could be involved. Or they could be targets. The messages kept coming. Follow the pattern, check the hotel. Midnight, I knew I had to go. The safe had given me proof, yes, but there was more to uncover. And the thrill, the fear, was intoxicating. I dressed carefully, choosing a gown that was elegant but not flashy, perfect for blending into the world of luxury where deception hid behind every smile. The hotel was the same as before, blacked out facade, velvet ropes, and subtle security. Inside, the scent of leather, perfume, and champagne filled the air. My eyes scanned the crowd. Every detail mattered. Every envelope, every handshake, every whispered word could be the key to unraveling this web. And then I saw him, my husband, confident, untouchable, perfectly dressed, his watch glinting in the soft lobby light, and her beside him, the epitome of elegance and deceit. They didn't notice me. They never did. I followed them upstairs, staying in the shadows. Floor after floor, the suspense building with every step. My hands shook, but my focus sharpened. I had to see what they were hiding. They entered a suite on the 42nd floor. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. Inside, I heard voices, serious, deliberate, planning something. Money, accounts, meetings, hidden properties. And then a name that made my stomach drop, a name from the world I thought I knew. Someone powerful, someone untouchable. And now, someone entangled with my husband and best friend. I pulled back, heart racing. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, this was dangerous. And I was in the middle of it. Back in the SUV, I reviewed the pictures and notes. I realized the luxury, the glamour, the wealth, it was all a mask. Every expensive dinner, every private trip, every sparkling jewel, they were all tools to hide crimes, lies, and manipulation. I also realized something else. Someone was guiding me. The messages, the notes, the keys. It was as if someone wanted me to uncover the truth. But why? Were they helping me? Or leading me into a trap? I knew I couldn't confront them yet. Not with this knowledge, not without a plan. But I also knew I couldn't stop. Every secret I uncovered brought me closer to the truth and closer to danger. I returned to the penthouse, the folder and USB drive in hand, and sat on the edge of the bed. The city lights outside seemed to pulse, almost like a heartbeat matching my own. Luxury, wealth, betrayal, danger, it all blurred together. And I realized that my life, the perfect life I had built and loved, was gone, but I wasn't going to let them win. Not my husband, not my best friend, not the network of greed and power they were a part of. I had proof, I had knowledge, and I had a fire inside me that refused to be extinguished. That night, I made a decision. I would follow every lead, uncover every secret, expose every lie. And when I did, they would realize that no amount of luxury, wealth, or power could protect them from the truth. Because in a world built on appearances, the truth is the most dangerous weapon of all, and I was holding it. Astra's stories her heart holds. I couldn't stop thinking about the safe. The documents, the contracts, the secret accounts, they weren't just proof of betrayal. They were evidence of something much bigger, a network of deceit, greed, and manipulation that stretched far beyond my husband and my best friend. I knew one thing. I had to act carefully. One wrong step and I could be exposed or worse. But fear wasn't going to stop me. Every luxury, every indulgence, every golden facade that had surrounded my life had become a cage. And I was done being trapped. I started by reviewing the photos I'd taken at the hotel. Every handshake, every envelope, every whispered word mattered. And then I noticed a detail I had missed before, a man in the corner watching them, not casually, intently, like a predator. I hadn't seen him clearly, but the angle of his suit, the flash of his watch, the way he moved, he wasn't just part of their world. He was a threat. I had to know who he was. The next morning, I followed him. I rented a black sedan, quiet, sleek, perfect for blending in, and tailed him across the city. He moved with precision, never noticing me, never hesitating. And then he entered a building I recognized, one of the most exclusive private clubs in Manhattan. The kind of place where the valet knows your name, the bar serves only champagne and crystal flutes, and every conversation is encrypted behind luxury. I waited outside, heart pounding. Every second felt like a test. Every shadow seemed alive. And then I saw him emerge later, carrying a briefcase identical to the one I had seen exchanged at the hotel. He got into a car, and I followed him to a mansion uptown Grand, gated, intimidating, the kind that screams wealth and power. Inside, I watched through the large glass windows. The mansion was alive with activity, people moving and coordinated. Patterns, documents being exchanged, phones being whispered into. And there he was, the man in the gray suit, meeting with figures I didn't recognize, but who radiated authority. My husband and my best friend arrived shortly after, smiles polished, movements precise. I snapped pictures, careful to stay hidden. Each frame told a story of a life I hadn't known existed, a network of secrets, luxury, and betrayal, one that stretched far beyond my personal heartbreak. That night, back at the penthouse, I pored over every detail. Every photo, every note, every transaction began to form a map. Names, dates, addresses, all connected. I realized that my husband and my best friend weren't just betraying me, they were operating in a system of influence and manipulation. And if I wanted justice, I had to understand it completely. The messages continued. Tonight, he will make a mistake. Watch carefully. I didn't know who sent them, but I trusted them. Somehow, they were guiding me, leading me to the truth. And I had no choice but to follow. I decided to confront him, not openly, not recklessly, but strategically. I needed answers and I needed leverage. I knew he couldn't resist a test of his own control. I arranged a coincidental meeting at one of the city's luxury hotels, a place where discretion is guaranteed and appearances are everything. I wore a sleek black dress, elegant but understated, and carried a small briefcase of documents, as if I belonged in that world.